All right, we have more news about the Napeague State Park and the latest going on there in the Pine Barrens there. And you can see this is the devastation, by the way, that you can see from the southern pine beetle. This all used to be green pines. It's all gone now. But they are now doing burning of piles. And News 12 actually covered this. Well, not on the website, though. I already took it down. I had to look for it. I had to use Google because can't find it on the website anymore. But this is a controlled burn on East End to keep fire from sparking. So this is a controlled burn. So this doesn't result in a fire hazard during the summer. So we're going to have a listen to this.
We saw smoke out on Long Island's East End. It was likely from controlled burns to keep a fire from sparking. The State Parks Department and Town of East Hampton are working together to reduce fire risk. Friday, more than 70 piles of cut down trees, which were killed by the invasive southern pine beetle, were burned in Napeague State Park. Town officials say the burn will hopefully keep people safe.
The amount of fire load that is on the ground would have made it tremendously difficult for our fire districts and our captains to be able to get into a fire if it did happen. So by reducing the fire load, it allows for greater attacks by fire districts if there is a non-controlled fire, but also for regeneration of the forest.
Yep, exactly.
East Hampton's deputy town supervisor says Montauk residents say they are particularly worried about fire, given that there is one way in and one way out. Town officials say there will be more controlled burn.
So there you go. So they're doing controlled burns. Interesting. They're burning the piles, though, because you can't really, because there's snow everywhere all around. So you can see there's still some standing dead pines there. So that's one article, and there's a post on Facebook about this as well. To address devastation brought by the southern pine beetle in the hills, a contractor hired by New York State is doing controlled burns of dead tree piles in the promised land area of Napeague State Park. A star tree has cut about 5,600 trees and created slash piles across 55 acres. That's a ton of trees that have been infected or dead, killed by the southern pine beetle there. And it's just been one of the hardest hit in all of the pine barrens on the whole Northeast. Piles of dead trees and branches will be disposed of using different tools. But some will be burned, others will be chipped, and still others will be removed. So here's the images right here, and they have a video of it. The video up here, you can sort of see what it looks like. I don't know if there's sound. There's still some pines that are still alive, which is good to see. So they're doing that. This is very important to help the situation out there and give us some hope of restoring the pine barrens there. It's very important. And now it won't close. Nice. So we're trying to close it and it won't close. Let me hit escape. There we go. So there's an article here from the East Hampton Star about this. So it says, talk of hope in the face of ruin. So it says, tidy slash piles of dead pitch pines have been made in Napeague State Park, ready for controlled burns that are scheduled to start on Friday. So this is an article from the East Hampton Star. As they did 1 year ago, officials of the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation came to the Montauk Downs State Park, where on Tuesday they discussed the efforts to address devastation wrought by the invasive southern pine beetle on pine trees in Hither Hills and Napeague State Parks, particularly a reduction in the risk of wildfires. The message was of resilience and the promise that while current conditions may not demonstrate it, we are going to make a new forest and it's going to be great, one official said. That effort begins Friday with a controlled burn of dead tree piles in the promised land area of Napeague State Park between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. During active burns, the trails on or local roads may be temporarily closed to ensure public safety. Each such burn is expected to take 1 day. The southern pine beetle was first detected in Suffolk County in 2014 and first seen in Napeague in 2021. In August, Governor Kathy Hochul announced that Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation had awarded a $2.2 million three-year contract for forest management in the areas that have experienced a significant impact from the invasive species. The contract the focus is on areas near residences, trails, and Montauk Highway, while creating access for fire departments to reduce the risk to lives and property in the event of a wildfire. State Parks crews mobilized to clear down trees near the Montauk Transfer Station and remove stumps using an excavator when necessary along parts of the Paumanok Path, which is a trail that runs through much of Suffolk County. A mulcher shreds trees into mulch. The clearing work is directed by a hazard and risk analysis and fire management plan finalized by the contractor, Star Tree Wildlife Protection, with input from the State Office of Parks and other entities. Pitch pine woodland comprises around one-third of Napeague State Park, where an estimated 40,000 trees, or 80% of the forest, has been affected. 80%. The park director at Montauk Downs said so. That's Tim Watson. At Heather Hills State Park in Montauk, only 147 of the 1,665 acres are considered pitch pine woodland. We have over 100 rare species at these parks, including the federally endangered northern long-eared bat. Becky Sibner, the Parks Department Forest Health Specialist, said at Tuesday's well-attended meeting. In the state, Heather Hills ranks second for globally rare elements of biodiversity, and Napeague ranks seventh. These are just incredibly special places, and that really factors into how we're responding to this crisis. The density of this maritime pitch pine woodlands, which Ms. Sibner said is atypical, is what made the parklands particularly vulnerable to the southern pine beetle, which can produce up to 6 generations per year and kill a tree in 2 to 4 months, which is incredibly fast. Cold winter temperatures historically kept the species further south, but with climate change, we are seeing it spread north, she said. It has reached as far north as New Hampshire now. The beetle is dependent on the summer temperatures, but that's a really fast-growing population, and large infestations can spread at a rate of over 120 feet per day. Once present, it is incredibly difficult to control. When detected, the initial management technique is a suppression cut, where you cut the infested trees and then a buffer around them, Ms. Sibner said. That effort was unsuccessful here. So in 2022, long-term goals were enumerated: reduction and mitigation of threats to public safety, protection and promotion of rare and vulnerable species and natural communities, and strengthening of ecosystem resiliency to pests and disease. We're really trying to balance all the important pieces of this project, which is our mission. Emergency fuel breaks were created near residents in the winter of 2025 and to 2024. We have also followed that up with some understory mastification, or wood chipping, Ms. Sibner said. We basically mowed some of the shrubs next to a fuel break, trying to increase its defensible space. Working from outside of what we want to protect, which is homes and people, we're working our way in, reducing fuel coming in so that there's a larger space that can be defended in the event of a wildfire. This is likely to be repeated every few years. In 2024, winter tree cutting was expanded, focusing on hazard trees along trails because the trails were now going through a dead forest. Trees span for about 10 feet on either side of the Paumanok Path and in the Promised Land were cut. And then this whole time, we've been continuing our planning for restoration and long-term management. Since the beginning 1 year ago, the Parks Department contracted with Star Tree, which developed the hazard assessment and recommendations in partnership with the state DEC and local fire departments. Star Tree has cut about 5,600 trees and created slash piles across 55 acres, expanding out from past work and priority areas. Piles of dead trees and branches will be disposed of using different tools based on the location and what is feasible, but some will be burned, others will be chipped, and still others will be removed. While Napeague appears to be wholly ravaged by the invasive insect, we've got some good trees alive still in there, Ms. Sibner said, and they really look good. It's not a lot of trees, and we don't know what'll happen. There's still southern pine beetle on the site, but they've made it this far. They're pretty well spread out, which helps them, so we're feeling attached to the idea that we may be able to keep some of the pine trees. And as long as we have those, they're a seed source, so it's a real priority to do that. We're creating a really large defensible area, she said. If a wildfire were to happen anywhere along the Paumanok Path in that section, we still have this big area that'll be much lower in fuel because it will be pretty clear. In addition to the burn at Promised Land, piles by Montauk Transfer Station are anticipated to be removed before the spring, certainly before the summer. The weather conditions that you need for any kind of fire are extremely specific, she said. This would be a small trial in conjunction with the DEC because they have extensive experience with pile burning closer to Riverhead, she said, pointing to the David A. Sarnoff Preserve, where she has seen it very successful. More tree cutting is also planned for this year. Along with these fuel reduction steps, the one piece of good news about all of this is that the pitch pine actually regenerates very well with disturbance, Ms. Sipner said. We do expect to see quite a bit come back. That's part of our monitoring this year. Maintaining an appropriate forest density is also a strategy toward minimizing the risk of renewed destruction by the southern pine beetle. I know it still doesn't look good, she added, but it's still not your park, but I hope the vision for this is starting to take shape. So a great article there from the East Hampton Star. It will be linked below. And again, this is an area, of course, that we've seen just tremendous devastation. But there are areas where the pines are still, like this area right here. Looks like the pines are still here in this area. And then if you go up here, Lazy Point luckily has been left alone too as well. Lazy Point also seeing a lot of nice pines here as well. That's what they're trying to do. It works disturbance, and they're trying to create that balance. That this is what I've spoken about here, having that balance. And the trees are too close together. We'll take a look at this spot here in a moment here. This is taken September 24. You can actually see there's still trees alive here, but you can see these trees are kind of close together, and that's a problem because there hasn't been enough fires, and you get all that overgrowth. See this? Oh, it's not a pine, but you see this ongoing outbreak here. So this is what it looked like September 2024. You can see just, but the point is when it does grow back, it needs to look more like it does in New Jersey. So if we look at New Jersey again, I'll show you what I mean. Let's go to Double Trouble Road. Yeah, let's do Double Trouble Road here. I'll show you what it looks like here. So see, it has a different look when you look over here. In New Jersey, you can see the trees are kind of further apart, not so close together. So that's a big part of it, and because they do controlled burns there, and it really helps a lot. And then that's what we need to do here. And I'm glad to see that they're planning on doing this and now they need to do it in other parts of the Pine Barrens too. But see, this is what I mean. So you can see here that there's space between the trees, some space at least. It's a little tight over here in this area. Yeah, this is the spot I want to show you. This side. This part's a little overgrown here, but this sort of showing you see the space between the trees here. So that's healthy spacing for trees. So the pines need that open space. They also need that disturbance. So it's also part of that. That's what it needs to look like. And Napeague, Napeague. I'll show you what it used to look like. Further out. So, again, this is the area that they're talking about. It's just terrible what's happened here. It's a little bit of a different environment versus New Jersey as far as this is a pitch pine dune land. But you can see the destruction here. And what once we used to have here is what it used to be right here. I mean, it doesn't look overly dense, but it is dense. You can see, and part of the problem is you see what's going on here is that you have the tops of the trees have needles on them, but the bottom does not. And that's a sign that it's too dense. So that's what happened. They kept fire out of this area, and fire is a very important part of the Pine Barrens. And when you don't have it, the trees get unhealthy, and they get too close together, and then the beetles just take advantage of that. And the fact that we don't get cold winters anymore. I know you're saying, "Well, John, this winter's cold." Yeah, but now we're going through another warm spell again. We shouldn't be going through this. Shouldn't be having this warm up. That's not normal. You have a warmer for a couple of days and it should get cold again. So it's still not, this is what we got. So this is what's going on in Napeague State Park here. Again, what a shame that we've lost so much of this, but I'm hoping to come back. I think they got the right idea. I'm pretty confident, and one day we will come back out here and do a video out here. It's a long trip for me, but I would like to get back out here and see how things look. So anyway, that's all for now. And again, News 12, it's already gone from their website, by the way. So you go to their website, you can't even find it. I don't know. They had it. They just there yesterday. So Yeah, more crime in the middle of the island. There's nothing. No surprise there. Fight in Franklin Square. To arrested during. This is going now. I'm going off topic. Conklin Street and Waverly Place and Farmington. But anyway, yeah, it's so unfortunate they took this down from their website. But I'll have the link. I'll have the link to the story here. So again, News 12 is hiding it, but this is the link, and you can see again what they're doing there. But you can still see some pines that are alive. So hopefully they will drop some seeds, and we'll have some new seeds coming through. So there you go. So that's all. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we get out there someday and look at this and see how it's going out there, and get to show you again. I want to get back out there too, because it is beautiful. There's still some absolutely amazing pitch pine dune lands out there that I'd love to get back to. But anyway, that's it for this video. Have a good night.